Hey everyone, and welcome to the Unmodern podcast, the podcast where we have unscripted, unapologetic, and uncomfortable conversations that affects everyday people. If you've ever had an outlook, thought, or an opinion that modern day society told you to be silent on, that you would get in trouble for, or if you've ever heard the words, probably shouldn't say that, then this is the podcast for you. My name is Alfred, a husband, father, and an adventure-seeking kind of guy who over the years has learned to have a positive outlook on life, regardless of what society throws at me. So if you're ready to listen, let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, babe.
Hi. It's good to be back.
First repeat guest ever.
Feels good.
Yeah.
I should be the first repeat guest, though.
That's fair.
I am your wife.
It's not like I had a choice, so.
You did. You could have said no to me.
You're funny.
You ever said no to me?
Yeah. So it's been about 15 months since our last podcast, and a lot has changed. What's new in your world?
We're having another baby.
That is true.
Number 2 is on the way. She will be here in March. And yes, it is a she.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm back to work full time, which is also exciting. I have a love-hate relationship with it because I do love to be home. But getting out and seeing the world is also kind of nice. So pretty much it.
I think there's a bit more than that, but that's a good highlight reel.
Yeah.
Nice. So last episode was kind of a fireside chat, and we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about COVID. We talked about our marriage. We talked about Sophie. And I feel like we're going to touch on similar stuff today. Likely not COVID, but yeah, what's something that's been on your mind that you'd love to get onto the second episode of a podcast with us?
So many things. I had a lot of feedback from our last podcast, which I loved. A lot of women came to me and said how it was nice to hear from someone who was going through hard times or who had went through hard times and got through it, and different things about their life was said, and that I was okay to not hold back, that I basically just kind of laid it out on the line. And what I kind of want to do with this one is a little bit different, where I was like, I want to interview you. I want it to be more of a,
whoa.
Yeah, I know. See? I want it to be more of a, I want to ask you questions. I want to know how you feel about different things. And I also want to tell everyone what we've been doing and where our life has kind of led in this last year, which it's been very different than what we thought it was going to be. That's for sure. So yeah. So I think the first question that I have is we had a long conversation a couple of nights ago, and we often do this, is where we kind of sit down in bed and go over things in our life, or we kind of reminisce about certain things. And you had a lot on your mind, and we've been saying it this month, that this month is a season, and because shit has hit the fan big time. There has been a lot of ups and downs and trials and tribulations, and we're trying to get through it as best as we can. But we definitely had a conversation about some things, and I want to touch on them. One of them was fitness and health. I want to know, what do you see it as? What do you see fitness and health as? What would be your perfect picture of like Alfred and Courtney's journey through fitness and health? Because I think as women, we see it as so much different. And I think it's a misconception when you have men versus women on something, that you think that I should do something or I think that you should do something. I would love to hear your take on it.
So I think men and women's fitness and health has to be different. It has to, right? I think men's health has to be around strength and endurance, and women's has to be around stamina and longevity.
Fair.
I believe that is our function in society. It's hard for a man to be a provider and a protector if you can't protect.
Mm-hmm.
I say that tongue in cheek because it's 2024. The reality of modernity is right at the forefront, meaning there's no active, we're not involved in active conflict. I know that's not the case overseas, but I'm not every day presented with a threat. you can create a threat or you can create an enemy, but biologically and going back to a very traditional role, I think that is the function of a man. And I also think that is the desire of a woman. I think that's what a woman looks for in a man, is to provide and protect.
I think that you can do fitness and health other than just going to a gym.
What I'm getting at is when you said that when men and women look at it different, and then we try to soften that statement because it seems so controversial nowadays, which is stupid. I don't think it's controversial. I think recognizing, like, let's use an example this summer. I joined a fitness challenge and I had to run 6 miles, and you and Sophie came with me, but you guys were on bikes, and that's fine. And that's totally fine. And that's just one way where we were doing the exact same thing. We traveled the exact same distance, but I was doing it in a different manner. And I think that's the same. I think it's a situation where at the dinner table, if a man is eating a big, thick 12-ounce fucking tomahawk steak and a woman is eating a salad, that's okay.
Yes.
That's totally fine. There's different functions. There's different purposes behind how we do it. When the word health is not it's an umbrella term, and there's many things underneath it. So I just wanted to address that. To go back to your question, what is my idea of fitness? My idea of fitness now individually would be a component around strength and endurance. So for instance, I did a free trial at BJJ. I've never done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before. I loved it. I love the idea of it.
I can't even say the name.
But it was really it was really interesting to be on the mat with a 14-year-old kid that could turn me into a pretzel, like very fucking quickly. It was actually like extremely
humbling.
Humbling. Yeah, I had humble pie for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that day. It was ridiculous. But that is a cool function because there was men and women there, mostly men, but there was men and women there. And it was really interesting to see what I would consider, like, just from a visual, very strong men. Like these guys were fucking ripped, anywhere from 45 to 14 years old. But I talked about this with my last podcast, is I'm obsessed with the concept of stoicism. So what stoicism is basically being in full control of yourself, mind, body, and soul. Meaning you don't allow external emotions. You don't take emotional reactions. I'm butchering the statement, but basically the idea of people that can look at life when it's basically on fire and not have an emotional reaction. And this was really interesting because when I went to BJJ, these guys were manhandling each other. Like in the corner, there was 2 black belts going at it, like sparring at the last 10 minutes of the day. And at the end of it, they shook it out and hugged it. But it was really interesting that these guys went from a moment of like, they could have easily hurt each other very easily, but they didn't. They had it fully under control. And it was very, very interesting to me. And that's kind of where my 2024 heading into 2025 concept is I want to become better at that. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's kickboxing. I don't know what it is. I've never been a person that's been able to lift a weight like monotonously, like up and down for reps. I think I need to get better at that because there is a degree of discipline that is involved with that. I often talk about the best man at my wedding, Kevin. I very much look up to him because what he was able to do was fucking incredible. To have the discipline to do that is very admirable. It's just not in me. I've always been a functional health person. I like activities. I like sports. I like doing something difficult for a purpose, climbing to the top of a mountain to go to a cabin. There's a goal. There's a purpose. It's not just
a monotonous activity where you do the same exact thing over and over.
So that's what that's what health looks like to me. Now there's nutrition involved in that, and I'm exploring that right now. My self-discipline is very shit because I'm a product of my environment, and when my daughter asks me to have cereal with her in the morning, I can't say no. And that's a huge fucking problem.
Yeah.
But I need to get better at that. I'm also learning a lot about health. I'm learning a lot about the demonization of things like artificial sweeteners and how there's a multi-billion-dollar campaign around those when it's not true, right? I had my financial advisor, Jarek Chin, on, and he talked about the lie of the calorie, right? He thinks it's the biggest crock of shit ever. And to a degree, I agree with him. I think focusing on your macros, so your proteins, your carbs, your fats. So I'm learning about that as well. You know, ketogenic is something that's come out recently for me, maybe in the last 2-3 years. I'd have no interest in going full keto, but just nutrition is involved in that as well. Eating more at home, knowing what's in my food. right? Not eating packaged foods out of convenience, but knowing that if I'm cooking chicken and rice, I know what's in it is chicken and rice.
Yeah.
Things like that. It doesn't need to be boring. I don't want to become a chicken, rice, and broccoli person when it comes to nutrition. But to summarize, my health and my vision for health for me personally is to expand on what I think my basic function is, which is to provide and protect. And however that looks like. Nutrition wise, I want my nutrition to focus on that. So if I want to build more muscle, I need to intake a lot more protein and way less carbs. If I want to have more energy, I need to up my carb intake a little bit. Things like that. For us, I would love us to have like a 70-30. Like whatever fitness and health, and I'm going to ask you this question here, what yours looks like, but whatever yours looks like, and then the 30% involve us. I truly believe in all facets of marriage, but especially with health, you have to have your component. I have to have my component, and then we have to have our component.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? I think it needs to be 50-50. I think there needs to be more individual to it because I think that's how you make success. I think that's when you have a down day, but you see me still doing what I'm doing, it brings you up. And conversely, same thing. If I'm working a lot of shifts or if second baby is kicking our ass at sleep and one of us has the stamina to do it, it lifts everybody. That's kind of where my head is.
And like for me, I have always, and I mean, you know this, but I've always struggled with fitness. I have always been a bigger girl, so to speak. And it's definitely hindered me in a lot of things that I've ever wanted to do. But again, like that goes back to just me not taking care of myself. I'm okay with sitting down on the couch and having a bag of chips and watching a movie where like I really shouldn't be doing that. But I think health has so much more to do than just the food we consume and the activities that we do. I think health is so much more. Like we have found ourselves, and this is kind of why I wanted to ask this question, is we found ourselves in this period of our lives where the best friends that we used to have or the friends that we used to have are no longer in our lives anymore. And like, not because that we don't love them or talk to them, but because we're all so damn busy that like it has just gotten to the point that it started to affect our health and our wellness. And it's finding that niche or finding that next group of friends or that next thing that allows you to bring back joy in your life. And I'm going to read a quote. Actually, you sent me a video on this. When I heard it, I was like, holy shit, that is 100% us right now. It was by Chris. What is his name?
It's my boy, Chris Williamson.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go.
So it says, there is a period in everybody's journey where they are so different because they started to do new things that they no longer fit in with the old set of friends, but they're sufficiently developed that they have gained a new set of friends yet. And that lonely chapter in the middle is something that almost nobody I have met who has gone from a place of where they were to a place of where they want to be hasn't gone through. And I find ourselves going through that right now, where it's like we have this old set of friends, but like, how do I get to this new set of friends? And I think that's where that BJJ, that's where that comes in for you. And so it's finding my spot. And I think like, and we've chatted again about this numerous times, but for me, it was finding something that I loved to do, which of course has always been to be with kids, but it was finding the people to do it with. And I have been lucky enough to find this incredible job with the most incredible people I've ever met that constantly bring me up instead of ever bringing me down, where, you know, I can tell them something that's going on in my life and they're there for you. It's not a, if you need anything, give me a call. It's a, you are in trouble, give me your kid. I see you hitting the fan right now. Like, this is what I'm going to do for you. So they're full of action instead of talk almost. But I think that's so important, is to find that group of people. And I think everyone goes through this like phase of life where, you know, when you're kids or teenagers up until your mid 20s, you have this incredible group of friends and you think, well, everything will be okay because they're going to be my friends for life. And then all of a sudden they're not, or they're living their own life and you're not part of it, which is totally fine, because like we all have kids, we all have jobs, we all have lives that we're living, but it's, how do I get from point A to point B without feeling lonely? And I think that's where my health comes in, is finding those people and filling myself with things that make me happy. And I've lost myself along the way. And I'm just now trying to find my way back. And so I think that is definitely something that people struggle with. And to know like you're not alone, like when I heard that quote, to know like what I was feeling, I like it's not just me who's feeling it. Because this whole time, you know, you go through, or at least I went through life thinking like, shit, what did I do? Like, they're not talking to me anymore. Why? When it was never really something that I did. It was just that we're all busy and life gets in the way and it sucks, but you have to find your new purpose, your new set of friends, your new beginning almost. But that's where health for me kind of kicks up. I find that, I mean, right now I'm having a hard time, and I think that's because I'm pregnant, but fitness
excuses, unbelievable, ridiculous.
But fitness is hard right now. Like if you've never done something, it's not like at 20 weeks pregnant, I can just hop on up to that weight bench and lift some weights. Like there's just certain things that you can't do. And so while in my head, I'm sitting here and being like, I want to get fit. I want to do this. I want, like, there's so many things that go through my head. I'm just like, calm down. You will get there. It will happen. Just be patient. That's how I feel about it all.
So I have two things.
Yeah.
Can I rebuttal to that?
Absolutely.
So the first thing is, I don't think it's okay to give people a pass that life is busy. That's why I allowed a multi-generational friendship to dwindle. I think that's a bullshit cop-out. I mean, you've seen what we've been doing recently, where we actually track how many hours of a day we use our phone and use our apps.
Yeah.
There's actually iPhone and Android has that ability.
Terrifying.
Right? It's bullshit. It's fucking horseshit. I think the once a year Facebook reminder that it's somebody's birthday that triggers a conversation is the biggest fucking cop-out to call friendship and relationships. It's bullshit. I've been guilty of it, but me and you in this quote unquote season of our life where we've really taken on more than we were anticipating under normal circumstances. And then our washer decided to have a leak. I have 0 days off. Our daughter broke her arm and had to have surgery. All these things that are happening when life is throwing it at us, we haven't lost ourselves. We still reach out to friends. You still go to dinner with your girlfriends when the opportunity arises. We still make time to have massages and go to yoga and do all that shit. Mm-hmm. I think that statement is a big part of the problem. I think it's this cop-out where it's like, oh, I have kids. Everybody has things in their life. People have cancer. People have financial struggles. People lose jobs. People have multiple children. People lose children. And I think that idea that because of that, you don't reinforce a social circle outside of your immediate family. And this is going to be an interesting take, but I truly believe when people say family first, I think they don't include friendships in that. And that's a mistake. Because I'm a firm believer, and you and I are both aligned on this very, very well, mm-hmm. is there are friends that are family. Mm-hmm. There are friends that
they're the family that we get to choose.
They're the people that when they call me, I get that feeling in my stomach that I'm excited for this phone call.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for it for a few reasons. One, it's likely going to be positive. But two, if it's something negative and they're going to rely on me, I know for a fact that I will drop everything and I will be there for them. It creates a feeling in my gut because you've had experiences with people. So I need to push back against that. And I don't think it's okay. And anybody who's listening to this that hasn't reached out to friends or family, or maybe you have the idea of, oh, well, if it was important to them, they'd reach out to me. That's ridiculous. And I don't agree with that. I think it's a joke. And I think people need to start prioritizing this more than Instagram Reels and more than Snapchat and more than TikTok and more than all this other garbage. Because here's the thing. How do you go from 10, 15, 20 years of not talking with somebody after having your young adult life with them? How do you rekindle that?
It's hard.
You don't.
You don't.
It's never the same.
You've lost out on a lot of
correct.
Life with them.
Correct.
I do agree. I do. I've been there. I've been on the other end of the, like, what did I do? Why can't they reach out? And I mean, we have, I want to say 15, 20 friends that we feel this way about. And some of them, to be very honest with you, some of them are better than others. But again, I know how I feel as a mom, and it is extremely overwhelming sometimes. And like, we have one. I can't imagine having 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids. It is literally daunting to me, but time is something that you can never get back. And I think that not allowing yourself to say no to your children and say yes to your friends or yes to your spouse is a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Because your kids won't remember if you weren't at one of their hockey games or one of their basketball games or one of, like, you know what I mean? But maybe that friend that night needed you and you weren't there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things where you have to find that balancing act. And I feel like we're all guilty of it. Everyone is guilty of it. You can't tell me that you've never been in that position before. Like, I've hit that point in my life where I'm like, I need people in my life. I need my village. But then again, there's also just been so much that has happened in the last 10 years. Divorces, so many divorces.
But before we get on that, because I know you want to,
Oh.
and I know you want to talk about that because it's juicy as shit. Another thing I want to talk about, that Chris Williamson quote. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think the caveat there is that you have to be on a trajectory of growth, whatever that means for you. I know that's kind of a buzzword nowadays. I think for us in the last few years, yes, we've kind of been on this trajectory of growing our family, becoming very mature, understanding what we need and what we want, both individually and as in a relationship. I think one that sits better with me, and I was sitting on this for you, is I first heard about this about 4 years ago. I think there's a book written about it. But Dion DeFelice, shout out to Dion, my brother from Costa Rica, when I went on that men's retreat in Costa Rica, he had a really cool concept. I seen a quote about it the other day where it's called be, do, have, where since I've been an adult, I've been a have, do, be person, meaning I thought I had to have the thing in order to do the thing. Then I would become the thing. I'll give you some specific examples. I built a home gym in my house. I thought if I have the gym, I'd be able to do the gym and then I'd become this fit person.
None of that happened.
Correct. And he spun it because from the outside, he looks like a person that you're like, why are you even happy about life? Your life's been burnt down multiple times. He's had personal issues, both professionally and personally. And he said, you flip it, be, do, have, meaning you be the person you want to be by doing the things that person would do, and you will have everything that person would have. So if you want to be a healthy person, you don't buy the thing to have the thing. It's almost a materialistic approach, right?
Yep.
You get rid of that. If I want to be a healthy person, you have to do what a healthy person would do. And it doesn't matter if you're benching logs in the woods. Doesn't matter. Whatever your means are now, if it's a priority, you'll do it, period.
Yeah.
If you want to be a friendly person, and when you're a friendly person, you have a big friendship circle. I want to be a friendly person. By doing that, I will do what friendly people do. And that is be a friendly person, whether it's at the grocery store, whether it's randomly to a person at the gas station. And when you do the first two, you'll have all the friends you want. So that's a really cool concept that probably in the last 6 months has changed my thought process, because everything that I associate with myself has almost like it's very directional. It's very linear. It's like you got to be growth. You got to be driven. You got to be balanced. This is what highly successful people. And I just want to apply that to small things. Let's use our daughter, for example. I don't have to have anything to be a good dad.
No.
But people might say I have to be able to give my daughter all the things. So my daughter has to have all the lessons. She's got to be in the gymnastics and the swimming and the basketball and all this stuff. And then by doing that, then I will be a good dad. Well, no, if you want to be a good dad, be a good dad. And the way you're a good dad is by doing what good dads do within your means. It doesn't mean you need to go fucking cash poor or work all this overtime or do all these things. And that stuff happens. I get it. But that's just a really cool concept. Instead of the have, do, be, do, have.
I like it.
So that's just a really cool concept. And I love that idea. So
love it.
A little bit of a mindset switch there. But I cut you off on divorces. I'm going to let you go the fuck off on that.
So friends of ours are having divorces. Acquaintances of ours are going through divorces. I honestly, I have two hands. There's more people who are going through a divorce right now than I have of fingers. Like it's insane. And so my thing for me is like, we're constantly around it and hearing about it and sometimes going through it with friends, that I find myself constantly looking and being like, are we okay? Like, we got this, right? Like, we're cool. And I found this like meme one day that it was like, if you're unhappy or you feel like you need a divorce, it's like, go to bed and wake up because like we're in this forever. Like it's not like when I signed that piece of paper, I didn't like I meant my words. I meant like through sickness and health, like through the good, through the bad, like through the freaking ugly. And like it's gotten pretty damn ugly for us at points. But I'm having such a hard time focusing on like a happy marriage sometimes because everyone around me, I feel like they're crumbling. And
Do
like,
you think they're crumbling because their social circle is dwindled and they're only reliant on their spouse? And the problem is when you have all your eggs in one basket, if anything goes awry, right? Because think about it, the strongest relationships we know are the strongest social circles we know.
yes and no. Like, there's some that I look at it and I was like, wow, I thought you had it all together from the outside. And then there's others that I'm like, I seen that coming. But again, like I look at it all the time and you constantly hear it from me where I'm always like, shit, are we okay? And you're constantly like, yeah, babe, like we're fine. Like we got this. But I can't, like, I find I'm doing it so much that,
I snapped at you a couple times.
oh yeah, like you've definitely been like, dude, fuck off. What do you mean? Have I given you reasons to think not?
Yeah.
And I'm always like,
Or
no.
it's like, honey, are we okay? And I'm like, are you about to drop a bomb on
Yeah,
me? Like,
yeah.
what's about to happen? Like, yeah, you went to dinner with 3 divorcees. You're the only one married. What's about to happen? Like, what kind of conversation do you have? And I think that's true to a degree.
So one of the things that had happened with someone that we know was, and this is something that I want to have a conversation with, can or should you have friends of the opposite sex that your spouse does not know or has never met?
No.
Is not possible.
But define a friend.
Any person that you talk to.
Okay, that's not a friend.
So like
you have a therapist, and if your therapist was a man, I wouldn't give a fuck.
100%. So hold on. Let me, someone in your life that you have conversations with that you consider an acquaintance.
Like, again, I don't think
but
that's a friend.
I have never met them.
If I'm talking to somebody about things that I don't feel as comfortable talking to you about, that's a friend. Somebody who I can open up about or open up with.
But should you have an acquaintance? No.
Well, honey, you work with men. So it's like, I'm not, you go to Christmas parties that I work and you have conversations about everything.
But I don't have them in my phone. I don't talk to them.
You don't have the VP of your school in your phone right now?
Yeah, but you do.
Yes.
Stop.
Yes.
Stop. Because there it goes. Stop.
How long was he in your phone before he was in mine?
That's because he was my boss.
Sounds like a friend to me.
Yeah, but
you're gonna have like.
So no. Stop.
You have to understand, every single opposite sex nowadays could be. It doesn't matter if they're married and you're married. Not in 2024. That's fucking irrelevant.
But I also feel as though like
that's not like off limits anymore.
You come. I don't know. Like there's no one in my life.
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, but like there's no one in my life
I'm
where I'm
challenging your status quo though. We're saying like, don't go after work for drinks with that person and then tell your wife about it after the fact. That's kind of shady.
100%.
But I also think if you're invited to a Christmas party and your spouse can't make it and you meet that person like, oh, hey, Rebecca, or oh, hey, Tiffany, and that's the end of it, there's a trust component that has to exist.
100%. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying, is it okay to make friends with? So like
no.
The person, let's say that the person from work or the person that you met at Starbucks one day becomes your friend. She's the opposite sex of you. Is it okay to put them in your phone and be like, I'm going to talk to you all the time, but my wife has no idea?
No, that's not.
It's not okay. And friends of ours did that and now they're having a divorce. And so it's like, it's one of those things where why put the temptation out there?
Oh, I agree.
Why do that?
I agree. Yeah.
Like
100%. 100%.
You obviously have never.
You're obviously searching for something that's missing.
But you've had no respect for your husband or wife.
So this is a super dynamic conversation. I love this conversation because everyone has a different way to get to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
Like people will rebuttal what you just said with, well, what if my husband doesn't have sex with me? Or what if my wife doesn't have sex with me?
That's still not a.
But they've had the conversation with them. Because we know couples in this situation that are married, but they're basically not married. Is they've had conversations like, you need to be a wife or you need to be a husband.
Yeah.
Like the husband's working 29 out of 31 days of the month, and the woman's like, the 2 days that you're home, don't fucking touch me. Eventually that camel's back is going to break.
But I honestly believe
so who's at fault? So we have to look at responsibility here and accountability. Who is at fault in that situation? Let's use that specific example where if a husband is working too much and the wife has explained, you're not home with me and the kids, and she uses sex as a weapon, and they've both had conversations with each other and no progress has been made on either side.
then you need therapists is what you need.
But that's what's happening in today's society is truly, I think people have an entitlement. People think they have a right to do these things. And I think that's a farce. I don't think that's true.
I think that if you are willing to do that, if you are willing to go behind your spouse's back, you have no respect for your spouse.
So again, if the conversation has been had,
I still think that you have no respect, because I think what should happen at that point, then it should be said like, this is not working. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel as like it's cheating at the end of the day.
It's cheating 100%.
So like, I just feel like you should have the respect for that person.
You have to add the asterisks though, because you're going to, so this goes back to our original topic at the beginning of this conversation of the difference between men and women. And we used health. So when you think of a married couple, they married for 5 years, couple kids, a house,
Hypothetically,
yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. You know what? This just isn't working. I love you. We love each other. It's just not working. That man is fucked for the rest of his life financially based on law.
Yeah.
So and I'm not asking you to look at it from a male perspective, but I'm giving you the male perspective. Is the reason why women have the idea that men cheat, even though statistically women file for divorce more than men because they're financially incentivized to do so, meaning a woman can get divorced and from a financial perspective, her life does not change. Not an inch. Child support, alimony, kids' activities, likely the house, likely the car, nothing changes. So it's easy to say like, oh, well, you have to have the respect. You got to walk away. The reason why it's harder for men is because the moment that happens, the man is fucked for the rest of his life financially. Half his pension, half his savings, half the house, half everything. It's gone.
Unless the woman was the one who made the most money. Then it's the woman that's
100%.
And you're just sitting pretty.
100%. I don't know many people in that situation.
I am definitely not in that situation.
But that's where that component comes from sometimes.
So here's the thing. Stop for a minute. Stop. I get it. Mm-hmm. I do. But I also come from such a, like, I look at it, our grandparents. That's what I look at love. That's what I look at. You know what I mean? Like they stuck it out through everything. They went through so much in their all of their years that they were together. And I look at them and it's like, respect is what it boiled down to. I respect my wife or my husband too much to do that. And, you know, I had a conversation with my grandmother once and she had said, she's like, if it ever got to that point, you have a conversation. And if the conversation ends in we have to, you know, go our separate ways, then that's what you do. But I just find that cheating is what's hard for me to understand, is if you have the respect, if you love that person deep down, how can you do that? And then if you don't love the person, then leave. Like I know that I'm looking at it as like, oh, that's so simple. Like, haha, could I ever do it? Fuck, probably not. I would be an absolute disaster. I just think if there's no love, if there's no, like, why do that to them? You've been with them for 5, 10, 15, in our case, 20 years. 20 years. Like, there's no, if you ever felt the need to do that, I deserve the respect. You know what I mean? And that's the way that I look at divorce, is like, or I look at the situations that we've seen with our friends. And I'm just like, how? Like, you sat up there in front of all of your friends, all of your family, said these vows, and then all of a sudden that goes away? Like, what faltered?
I think it's a symptom of short-term thinking. I think people have stopped thinking strategically. It's the same mindset that tells you to eat a donut when you've committed to yourself that you're gonna eat better. Well, the donut tastes good. It's just,
I love donuts.
like you know what I mean? But people don't realize, like, let's do some math. You're not an adult till you're 18. Let's round it up to 20 for fun math, easy math. 2 years of getting drunk and fucking lots in college and whatever else, who cares? So 20 years old is really when you start life in terms of like an adult life. You work till you're 65. Let's hope you're either married in a relationship till you're 65. You're likely going to live till 85.
Mm-hmm.
So from 20 years old to 40 years old is the same time frame as 65 to 85. We're not even there yet. And that's how much time we have after our career is done, likely after our kids are out of the house and possibly grandkids in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine doing that alone.
It's terrifying.
And that's what people don't understand. They look at an instance or a short time frame of behaviors that they don't like. And
Mm-hmm.
women are guilty of this, of using body language of like, well, you should have been able to, you should have been able to see that I'm pissed. Or men, it's like, well, I'm working more, so you should have been able to see that I'm not happy. It's this indirect communication that we're somehow supposed to decipher.
Which, let's be very clear,
we're super fucking guilty.
We were guilty of that so much. Whereas, like, there was a point, and I'm going to get super real for a minute, but there was a point where you had walked up to me, and I will never in my life forget it, where you looked at me and you were like, I'm not fucking happy anymore. And I want out. I'm done. This was before we had moved into our house, but this was before marriage. This was before Sophie. And, it would have been easier back then for sure. But it was one of those things where we just never talked.
No.
We allowed everything to build and build and build. And finally you were just like, fuck this. And you just exploded. And instead of a conversation, it was, no, I'm done. Whereas I'm definitely more of a no, let's chat about this for a minute, which is why we're still together today. P.S. But yeah, I think one thing that I had found online was this guy that was talking about 80-20, how for so long you have 80% of this person, this amazing person, and you love 80% of it. They do everything that you love. They make your food, they do your things, your laundry, et cetera, pleasure you in the sack, all the things. But this 20% you hate. And sometimes you weigh on that 20% too much. And the 20% gets in the way of the 80%. And he had said, he's like, you try and find someone with that 20%, the 20% that you're missing. And then you leave the person that has your 80%. But now you're stuck with 20%. And it's like, why? For the 20% of the time that you're unhappy, buddy, go take a nap.
This is interesting because there's videos online, and I know it's clickbaity, and chaos drives likes and interest, and you got shows like Love Island and all that stuff. Like there's women I work with that talk about this show. For those of you that don't know this show, it's basically a skanky, slutty, cheating, stupid fucking diva show. Women,
aren't you so happy I don't watch these shows?
But I think you would. I think the 21-year-old version of
Yes,
Courtney would watch this.
would have watched it, yeah.
100%. And then women will be like, where are all the good men? It's like, what's your example of that?
Yeah.
Other
not
than
from
like
Love Island.
Elon Musk. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you talking about? So I think people are products of their environment.
Mhm.
100%, not 80, not 90, not 10, 100%. If you have junk food in your house, you're going to eat like shit. If you have shitty friends, you're going to have a shitty friendship. All these things accumulate. But in order to get good at it, it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to fucking be diligent and take accountability. It's not my wife's job for me to reach my health goals. She can help, and I'm very appreciative of that. And conversely, I'm not responsible for your health, but I can help you get there. And that's the goal. That's what I want friends for. I want friends to help me to get where I want to go. I want to help friends get to where they want to go. Same with you, same with my daughter, same with my coworkers, same with my brothers, same with people in business. Everything is I want to help people. And the best way to help people is to be there for people.
So this kind of goes into my next question or my next kind of
hang on.
topic.
I got a question for you first.
Okay.
How are we doing? How are you doing? We're okay? Are we okay?
Fuck off. Yeah, we're fine. It's cool. You upset? Go take a nap. Like, that's how I feel.
I just have one. We're good.
We're good. So one of the things that you had said to me, you were on night shift and I was at home and I was watching a video. And if you've never been pregnant, I mean, you can't sympathize with this. But if you have been pregnant, then you understand. I am so emotional. I will cry to sunset. Like, it is terrifying how much I cry. And I don't know why, but I love sad, sappy things. And so I was watching a podcast and it was of this man that had lost his wife to cancer, and she was pretty young, and they had a little boy, and it was horrible to listen to, but his message was so much more than what he had went through. And I think that's why I was watching it. And I was trying to relay that message to you. And I was trying to get to that point, and you snapped and you were like, you need to fuck off. And I was like, whoa, what did I do? And you just were like, you watch so many negative videos and it puts you in such a sad mood. And no wonder, like, you surround yourself with this shit. You got to stop surrounding yourself with this shit. And I don't think I wanted to talk to you for 24 hours because, man, I was pissed. Because it's like, well, I get it. I understand it. But that's what I love to watch or listen to, is like, other than murder shows and murder podcasts, which is also what I love to listen to and watch. I love like the sad, sappy, like true story moments of like, this is my hard time that I had to go through, but look where I'm at now because of it. And I wasn't able to explain to you what he said because you got so mad. But what I want to say is there's also such thing as too much positive or toxic positive messages. And I think,
can you give me an example?
Everything that you listen to.
Like what?
I just think that while you look at it as she watches so many videos of sadness and she's just sad all the time. I'm not actually sad all the time. Love my life. I think we have a beautiful life. Super blessed. I just feel for these people. And I have a very big heart. And when I'm listening to something like this or watching something like this, my perspective on something like that gets heightened. And it's, whereas you look at it as like, now she's going to think she has cancer and shit's about to hit the fan and I'm about to have a wife that's going to cry all the time. So I get it, because I also have that too. But with you, I always find that you watch these videos or see these men, and while it's admirable to keep saying like, I want to be like them because I want to be fit and I want to look good and blah, blah, blah. It's also, it can be toxic, because it's like, if this is all you if this is all you surround yourself with, then that's all you're going to believe, or that's all you're going to want to believe. While on one hand, that's nice. But on the other hand, I feel like you need more sadness in your life, bro. I'll let you talk now.
Like, what's toxic to you? I like, so I've never had an opportunity to ask a woman explain that to me. You hear like, So much in society nowadays is
I
too
triggered him.
but it's again, that's another one. Is what's triggering? If you invoke an emotional response of me, is that the definition of triggering? Or but like the idea of toxic, you hear the term toxic masculinity. I love like that. I love that buzzword because it is the most fictitious statement in modern society. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity because masculinity in and of itself is not toxic. That masculine fireman running into a burning building, saving a woman or a child or a family or a dog, his masculinity is not toxic in any way, shape, or form. Period. Even that gym bro at the gym busting out, five plates on each side and that's not toxic.
So this is exactly how I feel. So I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna read it.
No,
my phone's about to die, so I have to read this.
You need to describe to me what your idea of toxic is.
This is exactly it. So toxic positivity is the belief that people should maintain a positive mindset no matter how dire or difficult the situation is. While there are benefits to being optimistic and engaging in positive thinking, toxic positivity rejects all difficult emotions in favor of a cheerful and often falsely positive facade.
Is that on feminist.com?
Shut the fuck up. Why you got to go there? No, it's not. But that's what I'm trying to say is sometimes I feel like, damn it, you could cry. Okay. That's all I'm saying is maybe sometimes I need to look at your positive things and you need to look at my sad, sappy things. You're going to disagree.
I'm just saying yes. To make you happy. Yes. Truthfully, that's what I'm going to do. Here's why. I'm going to explain that. Here's why. When you look at all those negative things, it doesn't always set you off. But I'm a firm believer that life will give you enough positive and enough negative. We are firm believers that Jesus will not give us more than we can handle. But my issue is when you jam pack all that stuff when things are good, we're great, work's steady but okay, daughter's excelling in school, work's going good, the weather's changing outside, we're in a really good place. And then life throws a curveball and you break. You don't falter, you fucking break. I think it's because you're literally teetering on the edge of emotional instability over nothing in our life. And then when something happens and you're called to be a mom or a wife or a friend, it's difficult for you because you're already taking on so much emotional load. That's where my head goes. And I've seen it. I come home and some small thing happens. You're like, the stove is broken and I can't cook dinner. But honestly, like you need something negative to release that emotion because it's built up. And you're like, why would I break over a podcast I heard? That doesn't make any sense. So that's where my head goes. But that's why I snap is I see you building and building and building through this negativity or through this, drama or, these drama shows. And then when our life or I come to you with something like, babe, I have to have a conversation. You're like, I can't handle it today. It's like, but you're deflecting because you're right at the brink. You know that you probably can't handle that conversation. And I think that does a disservice both to me and to you.
I agree. Sometimes.
So my toxic positivity, as you described it, is a way for me to build my positive reserves. I always have a smile on my face. Anytime somebody asks me how I'm doing, I'm doing so good. And I love how
you literally say that every single time. And even today, the girl we were at Ribeye Butchery.
Yeah.
And the girl looked at you when you said it as if to be like, what? Okay.
No, she smiled because she was surprised the amount of times I have said that and people see me exuding positivity. It brings out the best in people. I
do have to say it's helped more than it's hindered. So yes.
So that would be my defense with my toxic positivity is I think it helps more than it hurts. But thank you for your feedback.
You will do nothing with it. Cool. Oh God. So to jump on something different and completely off topic because
this whole podcast's off topic.
Listen, it just goes back and forth to different things. I told you this is going to be more of a interview to you. I want to ask you the questions and I want the people to know the answers. we started trying to have a baby 2 years, 3 years, 3 years. Honestly, I don't even remember anymore. 2.5, let's call it.
It's one big sexual blur. I don't remember.
Yeah. 2.5 years ago. And we, at first, did not want to have a second child. And I think we were such in the thick of things with Sophie that it was a lot to mentally deal with to bring another child into the world. But when she was diagnosed with HSP, I feel like seeing like the light at the end of the tunnel where we're like, okay, we got this. We know what it is now. We can deal with it. And then a lot of the talk was, do you want to have another one? And I want to know from you because I mean, like, we've had this conversation many times, so I really do know his answer. But how has this whole journey been for you? Be honest. I see you thinking.
I love the concept when people say live life with no regrets. It's a brain fuck for me of if I could do it over again, I would. And I would do it 100% different.
Mm-hmm.
But I say that from a place of knowing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like our relationship would have been different in our 20s, would have been a lot different.
There's so many things that you could look back on right now and say like that would have been different.
So my concept around kids is regardless of how old you are or how you're listening, I truly wish I would have had kids younger.
Me too.
I wish I would have committed to that.
35 and pregnant, not fun.
No, but it's irregardless of that. I'll say this from a position that many people may not have thought of: stamina.
Yep. That's why I say 35 and pregnant is not fun.
We have a very easy to deal with daughter emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
She's very easy to please. She's very polite. These parents with 3 boys that are running running around the house. I truly believe doing that in your 30s it feels daunting because it is daunting.
Yeah.
Because I look at what I was able to do in my 20s. When we had that summer water sports business, I would work a 12-hour night shift, go to the lake, open up the business, work all day in the sun, go to the lake, party, get drunk, have at it, do it again the next day, sleep 12 hours Sunday night, do it all over again the week after. We did that for 4 summers.
I know. I was there.
And the reason we had to stop was because we had our daughter.
Yep.
I just look at if you can channel that energy into children, it doesn't seem as daunting.
But we went through a lot with Sophie.
Yes, for sure.
And so I think that mentally, we just weren't there. And while I would have loved to have had back-to-back kids, both you and I have grown up with older siblings. And my sister is 10 years older than me. And your brother is 7?
9 and 7 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, there's definitely an age gap between us and our siblings. And I loved having an older sister. She took care of me. So I see it now as a blessing because Sophie is much older. She'll be 8 when this one is born. And she wants to help. She now looks at everything and she asks so many questions and is so inquisitive. And, she does have a delay in some aspects. So like her questions wouldn't be that of a typical 8-year-old, but a lot of it is like, you have a baby in your belly? Mommy, I'm going to help you. I'm going to go get their diaper. It's like, yeah, buddy, you are. You can do all of those things. And like allowing her to help and her being that big sister, I think will be great for her. Do I wish I would have had kids sooner? 100%. But again, emotionally, we just weren't there. And that's a big thing is like when we were 20 to 25, that was when we had went through the shit in our lives. That's when you looked at me and you were like, I don't want to fucking do this anymore. So bringing kids up in that is not healthy. So I think you have to wait until you are in a very healthy relationship because that could be your breaking point. What we went through with Sophie, the numerous seizures, the plethora of medical needs that she had, think of if we would have been 20 years old, 21, because that's when it happened was when I was 21, when you had said that you wanted to end things. I was 21 years old, maybe 23. I don't remember anymore. But anyway, imagine if at that time I had said, honey, I'm pregnant. I don't think we would have made it. Truly, I don't. So I think it just all depends on where you are at in life. And I think that from what we had went through, I think that we were in the right phase. I just wish that number 2 would have came a lot sooner. I'm blessed to be where I am today, but I wish things would have went differently.
That's fair.
But my question really is how, like, the whole journey to get pregnant and finding out that I was pregnant and up until now, how are you feeling about the whole thing?
I think you summarized it pretty accurately. Yeah, I wasn't ready for when we were informed about Sophie's autism and her epilepsy and then everything that came with that. And
I feel like there was just so much.
It was a lot. It was a lot because we were never surrounded by that. Like none of that was ever in our, like, my parents never prepared me for something like that. My mom's been a bedrock for my entire family, but without her, it would have fallen apart. I truly believe so.
100%. I think that we're still married because of your mom.
Well, she likes you more than me.
She definitely does. I'm her favorite. She tells me all the time.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, again, I'll go back to one of the earlier conversations we had. Is it was hard because we had no family and no friends that were going through that, and they couldn't relate, and we felt distant because of it. And I think, and I don't, no fault to them, I think they were scared too.
They didn't know how to approach.
Yeah, they didn't know how to provide support because they were just as confused as we are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the easy way out. And again, I don't blame them because there was times that I wanted the easy way out where I'm just like, Courtney, deal with this shit. I have to provide for the house, like whatever. And I went back to my basic function and I kind of hid in a corner and worked and provided money, which is a cop out in and of itself. But I think that goes back to why I am a firm believer of that whole notion that life's too busy for me to reach out and continue to stoke the fire of friendships and relationships outside of my immediate marriage and kids. I put that on the same importance level as kids and family.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 1A, 1B.
Yep.
And it's not just for me. It's not just, because I want to reach out to them, but I selfishly, it's for me.
I remember going through the thick of things with Sophie, and I remember reaching out to friends and sitting in a hospital, and, God forbid this happens to anyone else ever. But if you have had a child that has been in the ICU or the PICU or the NICU, anything, it's lonely. And when no one comes to visit, when no one reaches out, when you have to be the one to be like, hey, this is how she's doing, it fucking hurts.
It's lonely, but I remember the families we met in there. How instantly we connected.
100%, because you're going through the same thing. So I don't, we're getting so far off topic from what I actually asked you.
But go for it.
But I found that when I was in that place, the people who reached out, I'm still best friends with. Like, I still remember, and I'm going to say them by name because incredible people. Uncle Brody and Auntie Nikita. And I'm about to cry. But I remember looking back at pictures not that long ago and reminiscing about how, they were the only ones that came to visit. And that meant something to me. That showed that they truly cared for her and they cared about me and my mental health and my well-being. And I get that everyone is so busy, but in those moments, I was so lonely. And if there's anything that I can tell anyone, anything that you take away from this is sometimes reaching out and saying, like, if you need anything, let me know. There will never be a day where I will let you know. There will never be a time where I'm going to reach out to you and be like, hey, I need help, because it's just not in me. It's not. I want that friend. And like so many I have right now that will just do it. Yeah. Who will message me and say, hey, I'm on my way. That's what I want.
The issue with that response that people have is it requires a degree of vulnerability. And the problem is you can't be vulnerable when the people that matter the most to you are sick or unwell or in a bad place, because it requires you to be strong. You can't wear both those faces at the same time. So Sophie's in the hospital. We're having to be strong for her. And then you have people saying, if you need something, reach out. I'm not going to reach out because all my senses are heightened right now.
Yeah.
I'm in a state of fight or flight. I'm not going to drop my guard to say, hey, can you pick me up some Tim Hortons coffee?
I've said it numerous times.
Correct.
And I have looked back at the text message and been like, Courtney, come on.
Yeah. But I think this is like the TSN turning point of us, when it's like, if we see people, something as simple, like, and it can be so many different things. It can be something where maybe you go to their house, like what's the code to your door? You go to their house and you do their dishes or something. And that's just a blanket statement. It's just saying acts of service and presence is so much more important than you saying you're available to be it. Now, I get it. Other people are going through life too, and there's no judgment. We're like,
no,
this doesn't come from a place of we're going to reflect back on our phone, or if somebody listening to this that we've said that to. That's not what this is. It's just saying we've now learned what has had the most impact on us. And I mean, my God, that was 7 years ago. And I remember it like it was yesterday.
100%.
When Sophie was intubated.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember having the conversation with the nurse.
I remember what the smell of the room smelled like.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get back on topic here in a sec, but I thought I wanted to touch on this because there's a lot of negativity around this podcast, and we've given people a little bit of nuggets, but the most impactful turning point in my life was when I was at work, which is basically the story of my life with important moments for us. Fucking work all the time. When you went to the doctor and you officially got the diagnosis of autism and you didn't know what to do because there was early signs and a few people had mentioned it in passing, and we kind of got defensive and we're like, no, that's not the case. And I don't want to say it because I want you to say it because of how impactful it was. What the doctor told you have to do.
She told me that I have to grieve the life that I thought that I would have and focus on the one that I know that I can give her.
Yes.
And it's a quote that I will never in my life forget. And since she told me that.
So I need you to say that again a little bit slower.
You need to grieve the life that you thought that you would have and focus on the one you know you can give her.
So how applicable is that to any major life-changing event? You get married and have kids, and you start future casting your life 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like all the way to the end of life, right? You imagine yourself on your deathbed and your entire family surrounding you and being in the hospital and all, and then you get divorced and that, is gone. Or, your kid emancipates you and it's like you have a bad relationship with your kid and you're like, fuck, that's gone out the way. Like that concept to me is so fucking important to give time to grieve the life you thought you were going to live. You've worked all your life. People have, worked their whole life, saved, contributed to children's universities.
And I feel like you have this notion or this preconceived notion in your mind of what your kids will be. You're going to have a baby. They're going to grow up and walk and talk and go to all these activities and play hockey, play cheerleading, sports, anything. And eventually have a boyfriend, get married, have kids. There was so much in that sentence that I just said that I will never have. And I'm okay with it now.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like now I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
It's our life.
But in the moment, it all hit me like a huge ton of bricks where it was like, shit, I'm never going to be a grandmother. That's a hard pill to swallow. And please don't get me wrong. There are plenty of amazing men and women out there that have autism that are thriving in life and, have kids and are married, and it's wonderful. It just based on my daughter's diagnosis and based on what I know that she has. And I know deep in my heart that that's just not going to happen. And again, it's okay. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. That's not why I'm saying this. I'm saying it because I had to grieve that. I had to let go of everything that I thought I was going to have for her. And I had to focus on everything that I knew that I could do for her.
So how did you do that? How did you grieve that when you were given information that changed the trajectory of your life 180 degrees for the rest of your life, whether you liked it or not? No return policy, no going back, no nothing.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you get over that hump? How did you do that?
It wasn't easy. What she said to me was definitely the first part of it, but allowing people in and, therapy was a huge one for me. Having an open and honest conversations with my husband was another one. Relying on the people that I knew that were in my life, but also just allowing her to be the little girl that she was. She was fantastic and incredible in so many other ways, and taught me more about life and has been teaching me more about life than anything that I've ever done. And my empathy comes from her. My ability to be strong comes from her. And I'm about to cry again. Damn it. But she's given me so much more in life than I ever would have thought. And I feel like it's because of her, I know that I can get through 99.9% of the shit that goes on in my life. She is a force to be reckoned with. She is brave. She is strong. She's beautiful. And she knows it all. She knows those things because we taught that to her. We told her every single day of her life that she was beautiful, that she was so smart, that she could do whatever she wanted to do. And that was a big thing, is we never allowed the word autism to define her. It was never a definition of my child has autism, so please cater to them. Never. It was, you have autism. Let's figure out how to do life, because the world is not going to always bend over backwards for you. And I need to show you how to do all of the things so that you can thrive. And damn it, she's excelled. I still remember sitting down with her teachers when she was in kindergarten and them telling me, like, she had gone through 2 years of kindergarten, for those that don't know. And when she came back from the summer, she could talk, whereas before she couldn't. And I truly believe that it had a huge part to do with the teachers that were in her life. Incredible people, but she was able to talk. I didn't think that she'd ever be able to do that. So again, it was one of those turning points where I was like, she's got this. I've got this. We can do this. And, I never allowed her not being able to talk to interfere with anything that she ever did. Sophie skis. Sophie goes to swimming lessons. Sophie's in a dance class. Did I think that all those things would be hard for her? Yeah. I remember going to her dance, the first time that she ever went to her dance class. I remember looking at her teacher and saying, like, I don't think that she can do this, or holding her back from going to festival because I didn't think that people would be kind to her. I thought that autism at that point would have defined her and would have allowed people to see someone that I didn't see. And I remember her dance teacher looking at me and saying, no, I want her there. She deserves to be there. And even if she, doesn't do the dance properly, it's not what I'm looking for. She's having fun. Sophie is being Sophie. And that mattered. So it's surrounding yourself with the people that are going to bring her up rather than bring her down. So that's how I dealt with it.
Yeah, for me, it was a bit different. I always come at it because I think a father's love is different than a mother's love, especially with little girls and with boys, but with little girls especially. Is I had to grieve the milestone concept. I'll give you an example. A very popular figure that I listen to, Patrick Bet David, or PBD. I love concepts he has around raising children. And when he talks about, now mind you, he's a multi-gazillionaire, so he can do this, but he talks about how in his house books are currency, where he has a 10-year-old son or daughter. No, yeah, his son is 12, his daughter's 10. And if they want something, he associates a book number to it. So if his son's like, I want a new bike, how much is the bike? $5,000. Okay. You read me 20 books and you summarize and you can show me that you read 20 books, which will take you about 6 months. We'll get you the bike. No problem. And that's really cool. And I love that concept. I think it's really neat.
But how do you put that to someone?
So it's one of those things that when you're dealt a hand that is the exception, not the rule, it's very difficult to get external sources to give you the roadmap. You know what I mean?
You have to come up with that roadmap all on your own.
You kind of have to create your own path. You have to kind of bushwhack, to use a metaphor. You know what I mean? Like you're walking on that nice paved sidewalk. You know, this is what life's supposed to be. You're dropped a bomb or another bomb or maybe multiple. Maybe you lose a spouse and now you're single parenting it and you're like, holy shit, like now you're survival for a long time. Maybe finances are a problem. Maybe, you know, that person's family was your outlet and now they're no longer, like, whatever it may be. There's many different things. The whole purpose of this conversation is grieve the life you thought you were going to have and begin accepting the life you now own. And it's difficult. It's difficult at the beginning, but it's doable. It's very doable. And there's tons of success stories. So personally, for me, when you look at those sad things and you listen to those sad podcasts and all that stuff, it's the frequency of it. Is I love, just like you, I love a hero story. I love it more than anything. It's some of the greatest movies. I think of a movie like John Q, probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I love a hero story. I think it's fantastic. I think, and especially with us, it's relatable. So it's really easy to dive in. And I get it. I've never gotten mad at the fact that you are drawn to it. I get mad at the fact that you get consumed by it. I think you look for little anecdotes in these stories that relate to you. You'll listen to 15 different episodes of a podcast and you're like, oh, there's 30 seconds in this episode. They're like, honey, do you remember 7 years ago? It's like, calm down. But yeah, so for me, it was really hard for me to get external influences on how to do what I wanted to do with my kids, to be able to kind of learn from other people's successes and build upon them, because it was really difficult.
But I also think that that's why it was so difficult for friends to communicate. But we got way far off topic there. The original question was, how are you doing with me being pregnant?
I'm very excited. I'm very excited at seeing what 2 does. There's always the funny joke that my brother had where going from 1 to 2 doesn't just double the workload, right? There's no breaks, right? You can't just pawn off a child and take a breath, right? There's always one attached to one of your hips, kind of thing.
But I also think because they're of different ages, I think it'll be a little easier.
Yeah, I think so.
Not a lot.
Sophie's going to be a little helper for sure. I think she's also going to struggle with the attention divide, which I think I'm mentally prepared for, to kind of teach her that and just be like, no, there's time and a place where you're going to get your limelight, and then there's time and a place where a new baby needs the attention, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there's going to be some life lessons there. I've finally accepted being a girl dad.
It was so hard for you at first.
Well, it's because I'm so outnumbered. We have a fucking female dog. Like, I joke around where I need to get a male gerbil or something to balance out the testosterone in the house.
I'll get you a male goldfish.
Jesus, my goodness. But yeah, no, I'm excited for it. And I'm excited for the opportunity that I have to take some time off and enjoy the summer. And I also think we're in a better position life-wise too. And that's probably the counter argument that people would have to my earlier statement about having kids young, is I just feel like we're more set up for it.
That's what I said.
Yeah, we can deal with the blows and stuff, right? But we can also agree, you're never 100% ready.
No,
you're never 100% ready. If you wait till you're financially stable, you're going to be too old. Or if you wait till you're young and fertile and you're perfect peak, you're going to be broke as fuck.
Yeah.
Or if you want to travel the world and experience life, you're going to come back and have no money in the account, but tons of stories. So it's really just have kids when you want to have kids. Period.
True.
That's it.
Amen.
So, but yes, I'm dealing fine. I'm excited to be a dad for the number 2. And I'm excited to see you blossom into your femininity with motherhood. I think that's a beautiful thing.
You are not excited, though, at how many projects I have piled onto your plate.
Keeps me out of trouble. So I'm fine with it. It's just, I'm glad that you have more real.
I feel like you have a honey to-do list that's 16,000 pages. And every day you're like, oh, I finished this. And then I'm like,
I don't,
except I
I
put
don't
one more
mind.
on there.
I don't mind a to-do list. What differs is your unrealistic timelines. You're like, babe, yeah,
I'm having a baby in March. It needs to be done by March.
but I get it. But like, you also want like the basement done, the deck redone, like all the like.
I feel like it's just not too much to ask.
So
Okay, maybe a little too much.
as long as you have realistic expectations, we're good.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so I'm almost done asking you questions. I have like 2 left. So it's not so bad. Where do you see us in the next 5 years? I know you have a really hard case. So first of all, I'm going to preface this with, I know you have a really hard time with looking into the future. Very hard time. You struggle. You even struggle with, if we have a vacation booked in October and I talk about it in August, you're like, I can't. I'm not excited. It's like, what do you mean? You're so close. You're like, no, I'm not excited. I won't be excited till I'm on the plane. So I get that you have a really hard time like looking into the future and being like, this is what I see. And I know that you've explained it to me 1,000 times on why, but I'd love to know that if you looked into a glass and you were like, this is what I envision my next 5 years to be like, what would that look like? And if you say divorce, I'm telling you to go take a nap.
So there's multiple answers to that, because where do I see ourselves? That's a pretty overarching question. Health and fitness wise, better. I don't know where, but I truly believe we'll be better. Financially, I think we'll be much better. I think we'll be in a really good position. Just even with baby, I think the financial decisions that we made in our 20s will not be happening. So that's obviously very nice. I think we'll be in the same house, same place, same school, same jobs. I think more mature. I think we'll be more structured, like this podcast, like our conversations. I think we'll do more regular vacations. And when I say regular, I don't mean like frequent. I mean, it'll be a priority that we take a trip a year, or maybe multiple small trips in the mountains, things like that. Yeah, I see us in a groove. I see us with new friends, new activities, but I don't see any drastic change, for better or worse. In 5 years, I'll be 40, and
40.
yeah. And you know what I want to do for my 40th. So I'm very excited for that. So,
well, what do you want to do? You can't leave them hanging like that. You can't just say it and then not say it.
Maybe we'll have to have episode number 3.
Or you can just say, I want to go to
Egypt is my number 1.
There you go.
Yeah. So whether we do that as a family or not, but we came up with a solution that we'll be able to do that together as a family and also check off some boxes.
Yeah.
So there's something. Everybody, I think, who listens to this likely knows my disdain for Western healthcare.
Yeah.
And Charlie Kirk had a really good. Can I talk about this for a little bit?
Yeah.
Cool.
Your podcast.
So Charlie Kirk talked about this on a podcast, the George Janko Show, and he was referencing, RFK and Donald Trump and, Robert F. Kennedy or Bob Kennedy, for those that don't know him. He's kind of an advocate around anti-vax and food companies that are poisoning our food and all that shit. And he summarized it really well, where in Canada and the US, and we've seen this directly, we have some of the best, if not the best, acute healthcare, meaning quick, fast, needs to be done immediately, cancer treatments, surgery. Like, our daughter just broke and dislocated her elbow. It was 4:00 on a Saturday, and she was in surgery at 11 on a Sunday. It was very fast, done very quickly. A surgery like that in the States would likely be like $25,000, crazy. But one thing that we suck at, and I understand because you can't be good at both, is chronic, meaning long-term, systemic, consistent, over time. Foot specialist, throat specialist, ear specialist, nose specialist in Alberta is like a 2-year wait on the referral list.
So I actually think that it's more of we really suck at stopping it before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, there is a lot of breast cancer in my family. The fact that I am unable to go to my doctor and say, I would like a mammogram, is ridiculous. I should be able to, at any point in time,
but that's what I'm
take control over my health.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. The chronic, proactive, that type of healthcare. Yeah, we don't have that, right? So Eastern European and Middle Eastern countries have created basically a branch of their economy, and it's something called health tourism. For those of you who don't know, look it up. You can just look up the hashtag on Instagram. And there's lots of places. Like, I think Lithuania is the best in the world for hips. I think they have some of the best hip surgeons. I was reading about that, where you can go there, and if you have really bad problems, whether you're old or young, or if you have hip flexor problems, they are the best. And the cost is incredibly affordable. The country that we were looking at was Turkey. So in Istanbul, which is the capital of Turkey, they actually have program. They actually have companies and people that work for them that get paid commission, where you go there, you're out with a translator, they pick you up in a shuttle, they take you to this palace that is the hospital, and I think it's like $800 a day, and you're there for like 10 hours, and they do everything. They test your blood, they test your skin, they test your cardiovascular system, they do x-rays, MRIs, anything and everything, and you can be there for as many days as you want. And they basically build you like a book on your health, and they code it to what needs to be addressed immediately. And then surgeries over there are very quick. Now,
I'm getting a boob job.
I'm not advocating for you to immediately go over there and get surgeries. Like, you have to do your research. There's places that are sketchy, sanitation and all that has to be considered. I get that. But it's to the point now where I'm so disheartened by the healthcare over here. And it matters to me so much with the women in my life, my mom, you, our girls. I just think it needs to be prioritized. I'm not putting myself on the back burner. It's just me being the man I want to be. Like, you guys get first dibs at shit like that. So that's something that we have planned, where I can go to Egypt and get my bucket list number one done, see pictures, ask the questions without you looking confused 24 hours a day, not understanding what the fuck is going on, and also get something like that done. And I think that'd be pretty incredible. That would be a trip of a lifetime. And so that is the goal. If you were to put a 5-year clock on me today, something like that. And then in between that would just be what I mentioned earlier. Pretty similar, but the words I would use would be like more efficient, more intentional, more content with what we have, and that whole be do have, right? Yeah, that's in the next 5 years. How about you? Where do you see it?
Pretty much the same. I think that I'm not getting younger. And if I don't take control of my health and my fitness and all that jazz, I won't be able to run around with a toddler. Like, that scares me. So I definitely think we will be better in that aspect, and just living our best lives and making sure that we show our girls the best lives that they can have. We are headed to Hawaii soon, which is exciting. And hopefully, cross my fingers, head down to Nova Scotia in the summer to see family. Again, those of you who don't know, my daughter is named after her, is it great? Yeah, second great grandmother on my husband's side. And my great grandmother is her middle name. And baby to be, well, we love her first name. It's not named after anything. Her name will be Violet. But her middle names are my grandmother and his grandmother's name. So her middle names will be Diana and May. And his grandma's name is Diana, and my grandma's name was Bertha, but her extra name was Bertha May. And we want to make it down to Nova Scotia to have her meet the person who she's named after. I think that that's so important, because Sophie never got to meet the women who she's named after. And I think that, Nanny meeting Violet is important. So I think I see us taking lots of vacations, whether it's within Alberta or BC, or just showing the girls the world. And I think it's always been my dream to be able to give my kids the life that both of us never really got to have until we were older. But anyway, this is getting so long, but I do want to leave with a quote. And it was a quote that was said by Taylor. I can't pronounce his last name, but he was on the Unplanned podcast. And he had said, "I want you to value your life. I want you to be present where your feet are. Be present where you are." And I think that that is an incredible statement. I think that being present in today is hard. Technology and with everything else going on in the world, that's what your kids need. That's what your wife needs. Your husband needs. Just be there for them. That's it.
Well, thanks very much, babe. Appreciate the interview.
Anytime.
Wasn't expecting me to get an interview today, but that's how these things go.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all I got. I appreciate you so much, babe.
Thank you for having me on your podcast again. It was great.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Appreciate you guys tuning into the Unmodern podcast. Thank you, babe. Take care, everybody. Peace. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Unmodern podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, like and follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Unmodern Podcast. Do you have suggestions for future guests, or if you're interested in being a guest yourself, please visit unmodernpodcast.com. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next episode.